what's up? Hello, my name is Emma and today I'm going to be talking about episode 3 of Shadowhunters Season 2. I'm currently getting over the flu, but I couldn't just stay in bed when so many people are asking me to film this review, so just excuse my voice and the fact that I can't really hear myself and that I'm pretty sluggish today. But we're here to talk about episode 3. Overall, I feel like episode 3 was pretty mediocre, underwhelming. There were good parts, there were bad parts, but everything else was just eh. Other than Alec being in this kind of limbo state in between the Parabatai bond, I feel like I won't remember pretty much anything that happened in this episode. Just nothing about it was special or stood out to me. It wasn't really good or really bad. It went through the motions. It was kind of like a filler episode for me. The one overarching positive thing I got out of this episode was the pacing felt much better to me. This is the only episode in the history of Shadowhunters so far where I feel like I wasn't cramming so much information in or struggling to keep up. It really felt much more leveled with the pacing, and I really hope they continue with that. That was definitely my #1 favorite thing about the episode, just the fact that they were able to have a normal pacing. That's all they did, and that's all they really need. And with the consistent good acting, with the writing that is improving with every episode, and if they can hold on to this good pacing, the only complete thing that I have a problem with is the plot. So if they can just continue that pacing and keep a good plot that's complex and doesn't have a lot of holes, I will have no problems with the show. That is really it from the non-spoiler section. You guys know you kind of have to watch the show to watch these reviews, but that's it. Bye non-spoiler people. Now let's jump into the actual content of the show. So as we saw in the preview the week before, we knew we were gonna have some flashbacks, which Shadowhunters doesn't do very well with. The actors for their flashbacks never look anything like the actors that they have currently, especially considering the bulk of those flashbacks took place where it seemed as if they were 14, 15, and considering they're only 18, 19 now, there shouldn't have been a huge shift. They could have totally just used Dom and Matt and Emerald, and it would have been totally fine. Nobody would have had any problems with it because it would have felt so much more like these characters that they've already established. I don't want to go too into this because it's really not my place to talk about, but I was definitely rubbed the wrong way when they casted a white actress as young Izzy instead of a Latino one like they have with Emerald. I'm not a person of color. I don't get to say if it's offensive or bad representation or anything, but I did see some Latinx fans that were upset by it, and it felt very convenient that they would just put in a white actress because it was more available to them, and I just personally didn't like that. I did think it was funny when in the beginning we don't really know where Clary is, and then all of a sudden just the doors open and Clary is just strutting in there sopping wet, barefoot. I thought it was really funny. Speaking of Clary and Jace, for the last few episodes and especially in this one, I really feel like they have no chemistry whatsoever. It's not just Kat and Dom as actors, it's the actual characters Clary and Jace. I don't feel any kind of relationship between the two. When they're on the phone or when they're talking to each other, it feels like strangers or acquaintances. They don't feel like the type of people who were gaining feelings for each other and then found out they're siblings. There's no substance to their relationship. They're just two characters interacting. Listen, I understand that Clace is not the focus of the show like they are in the books, and I've actually been happier to see more of Alec and Magnus and more of Isabel and whatnot. So I understand that it's not going to be the Clary and Jace show all the time, and I'm kind of enjoying that. But I feel like in the process of giving these characters so much more life, they haven't focused on Clary and Jace at all, and they just don't have a foundation for their relationship, or if they do, it's not being shown whatsoever. And I'm not saying that we need to sacrifice all of the attention that people like Alec and Magnus and Izzy and Simon are getting in order to kind of focus on Clace more. I'm not saying that whatsoever. That's not even what I really want. I just want everyone to have the same kind of screen time, but also have the same level of development. It's just disappointing because I know all of these other characters so well, and I just feel no connection between Jace and Clary whatsoever. Alright, I don't know if I'm the only one that's kind of put off by this, but I feel like Simon's mom is totally underreacting and not as upset as she should be. Just let me get this straight. You find out your son has disappeared after leaving total destruction in his room. His excuse is that he goes off and is staying at the dorms at his school, but then you call the school and he hasn't been seen for weeks, and all that warrants is a, "Oh honey, please come home." Are you joking me? It seems as if they're trying this new thing with Simon's mother's character where she's a little bit more understanding and accepting, and I get that. I don't know if it's the way that I was raised or the way that my mom handled me, but I can't imagine any parent being okay in that situation whatsoever. I understand that Simon is an adult now, but he's lying to her, he's disappeared, he's not answering her. I think that would piss a parent off. I just don't feel like it's realistic behavior when your child is acting that way. I mean, I'm not a parent, who knows, maybe that's what the parents are doing nowadays, but like that would not fly with me or any other parent that I know. I really enjoyed the scene between Magnus and Jocelyn. Maybe it's just that I like people putting Jocelyn in her place because I don't feel like she's gotten enough reprimanding for all of her behavior in the past. But it was nice, it was authentic. Magnus is talking about how he never wanted to be involved in this and how he's felt bad for doing this to Clary since she was so young, and Jocelyn really needs to accept her responsibility. I feel like it was constructed well, the dialogue was really nice and natural, and I just feel like it was an all-around really strong scene. So we get Maya in this episode. Now my opinion on Maya in the show is that she's not Maya in the books, but I really like her character. I feel like Maya in the books is a little more friendly, and I understand that this scene in the books, because they were kind of recreating the Hunter's Moon scene, Maya is not that cool to Jace, but just all throughout the episode she seems a little bit colder. I can't really find the right word to describe it. It's kind of a combination of a bit of stubbornness and kind of standing your ground and strength, and I'm not saying that Maya in the books doesn't have these traits. I just feel like they have adapted her character and turned her into something new, and it is something I'm enjoying. I think Maya is going to be a really interesting character. I hope she does become more of a forefront character in the upcoming episodes, but I really like the actress. I'm interested to see where her character goes in this whole plot line with the werewolves versus the Shadowhunters and whatnot. I think it was interesting and I'm excited to see more. Alright, I think one of my biggest problems in this episode is something that has been boiling up a lot for the past season and 3 episodes. Listen, I understand that Jace specifically, just at this moment, has been through a big ordeal. He's been being manipulated by his father, trapped on this boat, he's killed a downworlder, and he nearly just drowned. I get it. But Jace in the Hunter's Moon scene was extremely mediocre and underwhelming for me. If a werewolf, especially one that Jace doesn't know, is telling him what to do, he would not take it. He would be snarky and sarcastic and superior no matter what he had just gone through. My favorite thing about Jace is that he uses this sarcasm and arrogance as a defense mechanism to people he's not comfortable with, but he's still able to show that true vulnerability of his character to the people he loves, like Clary and Izzy and Alec. And we do have those moments of vulnerability, which I love and I think are done really well, and I'm gonna get to that later, but it's this other half that has made the character of Jace so interesting and so unique that is just gone. To me, there's just nothing special about Jace in the show whatsoever. He's a good fighter and he's loyal to his family, and those are 2 really great traits, especially for a Shadowhunter, but there is nothing that says to me, this is a unique character that stands out from the rest and I like him. Or like another instance of what I'm trying to say is Jace is kind of cornered by Maya and an alley, and all he says is, so close. Where is the banter? We had the great scene afterward where he's really opening up to Maya and saying, I need to get back to my brother, you can kill me later, but he takes priority right now. That was fucking fantastic. And I'm not saying in that moment Jace needs to be sarcastic. When he talks about his family, Dom does so freaking well. The writers get it, Dom gets it, it's perfect. All the other moments that are so underwhelming. I truly believe that moment where he is pleading with Maya to get back to his brother was one of Dom's best performances for all of the season so far. I just want that emotion from the writers and from Dom to be expressed in other ways and it to not just only be the intense scenes that they really capture. I really like the scene between Clary and Simon when they're talking about Simon opening up to his mother and finally explaining to her that he's a vampire now and how Clary thinks that she's going to accept him. It was a really heartwarming moment that had a lot of meaning, and I feel like that meaning extends beyond just this one situation with Simon, and it's something just about self-acceptance in general. It does make me wonder if they're going to go this route of Simon's mother being very accepting and totally understanding and it's going to be like, I'm fine with you being a vampire, that's okay, or if this is just leading up to when Simon's mom is really going to break and have the reaction that she has in the books when she feels like Simon has been turned into a monster, and if it's going to be like a total shock because they've introduced this idea that Simon's mother is so accepting. I don't really know which way it's going to go, and I'm totally interested to see what happens because I feel like it's coming within the next few episodes. We get to this scene where Jace is in a mundane hospital and Maya shows up and just transforms into a werewolf in front of everyone. This was so unrealistic to me. Maya is part of a pack, the pack of Bays by the Accords. Maya knows that you can't really expose downworld to mundanes unless it is in life-changing situations like what happened with Clary and Simon and whatnot. But even though I made no sense to the rules of the world in my opinion, I thought the graphics were fucking terrible. You have $3.5 million per episode and that is all you give to your CGI budget. I thought we were improving with the CGI when we got these new portals, and this was like so season 1 to me. It was, ugh. oh, so cringy. Of course, we use shape-shifting rune. Again, I'm over it. Why do we have to use it in every single episode? It's so excessive. It's literally like every 3 runes they focus on in the show, they have to have a scene with the shape-shifting rune. I don't understand why it's so ridiculously prominent. Every single time they use it, it just makes less and less sense. Another scene I felt was really, really great was another one with Magnus, and I think Harry did really well in this episode, and that's not something I feel like I've been able to say for all the previous episodes so far, but I really felt for the scene when Magnus is at Alec's bedside and he's trying everything and he feels so unbelievably defeated because there is nothing he is doing that is helping Alec, and he just sits at his bedside and is just whispering, please come back, and I really, really felt it. You could just hear the desperation and emotion in his voice, and it was a beautiful performance. It was really nice to see this kind of crack in Magnus's character where he's always either totally serious or totally sassy. It was nice to kind of see some of his real pain through it, and I loved it. I really love how Isabel comes out of the alley and uses her whip on the werewolf and is just like, good doggy. That was such an epic Isabel entrance and I loved it. Alright, so we get to the flashback of the Parabatai ceremony, and this is something I was super excited for. We never really see it in the books, and so I was so excited. Like, this is the kind of stuff I want them to include in the show that's not from the books. Unfortunately, I was really let down. It comes in at a very significant point in the episode when Jace is finally back with Alec and he's trying to get him out of this current state he's in. And they couldn't really focus on the Parabatai ceremony as much as I felt they should. It's like Jace is waiting and then Alec walks in and they get into this circle of fire, and then Jace starts reciting the Parabatai ritual, and then it just completely cuts back to normal. They had like 20 seconds of it, and it was really disappointing because I was so excited to see it. I also feel like they didn't do a good job explaining the ceremony. Like, there was no context. They were just kind of in the institute, and then these flames popped up and they grabbed arms and started saying words. Like, there was so much more significance in that. And again, they put it in when they didn't have the time to do it, and it would have been so much more nice to see it all fleshed out. But this ending scene I felt was done so well. Like I said, Dom does fantastic with all of these emotional, vulnerable scenes. And I love the fact that I'm able to see that. Dom and Matt just have such great chemistry together, and when they are on screen together, it's literally like electric. They have such great chemistry when it has to do with the core beliefs of the Parabatai, and you can really, really see it just when they're interacting. It was a very, very moving scene, and I was happy that we were able to end the episode on that part. One thing I do want to end with is just a thought that I've been having for a while, and I feel like I finally understood why I'm feeling this way. I feel like Shadowhunters episodes are just not cohesive. I feel like it kind of might have something to do with the pacing because they cram so much into each episode that all of them just feel so individual from each other. Like, I don't really know what the overarching plot of season 2 is. I understand we're just on episode 3 and it seems like they're kind of doing something with like Jace versus the Clave. But like, for example, the first 2 episodes were so heavily focused on Valentine, and as soon as Jace gets off the ship, Valentine is barely mentioned. I feel like it's been like a week since the past episode, but Jace wakes up on the shore, so it couldn't have been more than a day in between the 2 episodes, and it feels like so much longer. And I feel like that's why this episode is probably going to get so pushed down into what I remember from it, because the next episode is going to be so overwhelming with whatever the plot of that episode is and the other one. I don't feel a connection between all of them, and I would like to see that improve. So that's really it for my thoughts on episode 3 of Shadowhunters season 2. I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments of this video, but that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new one. Bye!